Excavator parts assembly tutorial. Installation of counterweights. Place the square shims at the connection points between the chassis and the counterweight. There are different specifications, 2 shims per set, for a total of 4 sets. After hoisting the counterweight, move it to the chassis and ensure the connection holes are aligned. Apply thread locker to the threads of the connection bolts. Insert the bolts with washers and bushings into the 4 connection threaded holes and tighten them. Use tightening equipment to tighten the bolts diagonally, one by one. The tightening torque should be 3,260 Nm. Installation of bucket arm. Locate the number on the bucket arm, it must match the last 3 digits of the machine's nameplate number. Lift and move the bucket arm, aligning it with the connection hole on the boom. Apply a small amount of lubricating grease on the surface of the pin shaft, and install 2 resin pads of the corresponding size while inserting the pin shaft. After the pin shaft is in place, install the pressure plate and bolts, and the tightening torque of the bolts is 180 Nm. Use the same method to install the connecting pin shaft between the bucket arm and the bucket arm cylinder. The tightening torque of the pressure plate bolts here is 115 Nm, and the grease nipple on the bucket arm cylinder piston rod faces outward. Install the 4 hydraulic hoses. And tighten the bolts at the connections to a torque of 65 Nm. Installation of bucket. Locate the number on the bucket, it must match the last 3 digits of the machine's nameplate number. Lift and move the bucket to the bucket arm, and use grease to adhere the steel washer and sealing ring to the bucket connection hole. Start operating the machine, align the bucket arm with the bucket connection hole, and insert the lubricated pin shaft. After the connecting arm pin shaft is installed in position, install the limit bolt. The inner nut of the double nut must be tightened in the opposite direction to the outer nut. Bucket cylinder exhaust. With the engine in first gear and idling, extend and retract the bucket cylinder piston rod 10 times, leaving a distance of 200 mm at both ends. Continue operating without load, fully extending and retracting the bucket cylinder piston rod 10 times.